Hey everyone, it's Kristen Jensen with Defend Young Minds, and I'm so happy to be here with Laila Mickelwait. Truly honored that she's here with us. She is the founder and CEO of the Justice Defense Fund and the founder of the global Traffickinghub movement, supported by millions around the world. She's been combating the injustice of sex trafficking for over a decade and is a leading expert in the field. She received her Master of Public Diplomacy degree in conjunction with the U.S. Department of State. And I just really appreciate her work in this Traffickinghub movement because it has been so effective in battling one of the hugest porn websites on the planet. So Laila, welcome. And I also love Laila because I have a daughter named Laila. They spell it differently, but I love the name Laila.
Well,
Anyway.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your participation in the Traffickinghub movement, because I know without a doubt it is because of the participation of so many different organizations and so many advocates and individuals and survivors that this has had traction. So it goes so far beyond one person or one organization, and it's truly been just an honor for me to be part of it.
Well, Laila, you are bold, and I just think that it's amazing what you've done. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I am just inspired by you and your work. It's really audacious what you set out to do, and I love it because that's really what you have to do. You have to be a little bold, right, to get out there. So tell me more about Traffickinghub, because that's a hashtag, Traffickinghub, and it's also, your work and why you decided to start the Traffickinghub movement, and tell us all about it.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've been combating the injustice of sex trafficking for a long time. So now, it's been about 15 years. And I spent the last 9 years investigating the intersection between what I call the big porn industry, which other advocates call it the big porn industry. And for those who don't know, there is a big porn industry, just like there's a big tobacco, there's a big tech. There is big porn, and I was investigating the relationship between big porn and sexual exploitation, specifically criminal sexual exploitation like sex trafficking, child sexual abuse, but also looking at the harm that does to children who have free access today to these tube sites where, in a couple clicks, they could be on Pornhub, or they could be on X videos or X Hamster, watching the real sexual abuse of other individuals. And so I was looking at this, and anyone who's investigating this issue will end up on Pornhub, because as of December, it was the largest and most popular porn site in the world. They had, in 2020, they had, it was 130 million visits to the site per day, 47 billion visits per year. And in 2019, they had enough content uploaded to this one site that it would take 169 years to watch the content just uploaded in 1 year. So needless to say, I ended up on Pornhub. And during my investigations, what I discovered is that all it took to upload a hardcore sex act or, a sex scene to these sites was an email address. And so in under 10 minutes, anyone from around the world anonymously, without showing an ID to show that this is not a child in the video, without showing a consent form to say that this is not a rape victim or image-based abuse victim or trafficking victim, none of that, just an email address. And so that is how I connected the dots. Then this is something that millions of people would have already known, but nobody had really raised the alarm or sounded the alarm about before. And so I started connecting the dots between some articles in the media that were showing real, child abuse. Like there was a 15-year-old girl in Florida, for example, who was in 2019, it was in the media that she was missing for an entire year. And she was found after 58 videos of her rape and abuse were found on Pornhub. And they actually matched the surveillance footage of her trafficker from a 7-Eleven video to the Pornhub video. So I started connecting those dots. I started using the hashtag Traffickinghub to say, like, this is not a porn site, this is a crime scene. And people started to catch on. And then I wrote an op-ed about this issue that got published with a lot of reaction from people. And people actually called on me to start a petition. It wasn't my idea. And I copied and pasted my op-ed, and it went viral. And that's kind of how all of this started. So that's kind of the trajectory of how all this started. And I apologize for what's going on in the background here.
It's all good. It's all good. No problems. So you started it. That's great. I mean, sometimes it just takes the right person to put the things together and make the connection. And then, like you said, get it out there and people can see. I know the followers of Defend Young Minds really care about this issue. So why are tube sites? I know you explained about only having the email address. So what other issues are there? What other problems are there with these tube sites? Because, back in the day, you had to purchase pornography, the hardcore stuff, right? You had to buy the videos or rent the videos or whatever. And now there are these tube sites. So can you share like why these tube sites are so dangerous for children?
Yes, I want to explain what a porn tube site is. So it basically uses a YouTube model where this is user generated content. So what that means is that you don't need to be a porn production studio in LA to make porn today. You just need to have an iPhone. You just need to have a camera, which anybody in the world could have. Right. And you can record a sex act in the back of a car, in a hotel room, in your house, in the park, like anywhere. And then, like I mentioned before, anonymously and almost instantaneously upload this to the world's most popular porn sites. And those videos are then offered for free to the world. And so, when we think about children's access, there's no barrier to children ending up on the homepage of X videos, on the homepage of Pornhub or X Hamster. And there was recently a study done, and it was a peer-reviewed study done that found that, a significant portion of the videos that are on the homepage of these PornTube sites are showing sex acts that are non-consensual or criminal sex acts, or representing criminal sex acts, or right. representing non-consensual sex acts. And so there's no barriers. This is the model of these sites. They make money, and they make hundreds of millions of dollars per year on this content, but they offer it for free. And it's a model that is based on advertising revenue. So the more traffic they get, so the more content they have, the more indexed they are in Google, the more Google search results show up, the more traffic is driven to the site, the more money they make on advertising. They also harvest user data and monetize that. So if you think about, the millions and millions of people who are visiting these sites every day, including children, and that user data is being monetized, and they're selling premium subscriptions as well. So that's how they make money off of free content. And it's very dangerous for kids because, like I said, there's no barriers to access unless a parent is very, very, very diligent. And, a lot of parents just don't know. And then there's lots of situations where even if you're the most caring parent in the world, your child is not in your care 24/7. Right. And that's the reality. Right.
Which is why we always talk about the internal filter and teaching kids why they need to reject pornography and how. But this is a whole different business model. And it's one that is especially dangerous for children because, as you say, there are no barriers for them to get on. I know there have been some figures about how many kids are on Pornhub, and it's astonishing, really. Okay.
I've even seen comments where, just in my research, I've come across for example, it's just like an anecdote where it would say, click here if you're under 18, click here if you're under 16, or like the comment. And there'd be hundreds of likes on that comment on Pornhub that showed, there's a significant number of under 18 users of these sites. and they're being used and abused not only in front of the screen, because I, call this a form of secondhand sexual abuse for a child to be exposed to rape, for example, as their introduction to sex when they're 8, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
But also there's children who are being used behind the screen. So those are the ones that are being used in the films and abused there. So this is there's abuse going on both sides.
Right. So the kids that view, I was just talking with a grandmother who let her 9-year-old daughter have access to an unfettered, unprotected iPad, and she was looking at pornography. And so kids of all ages are curious, and so it's important to train them up early to know what it is, know why it's harmful, and know how to reject it. So what are the effects, on the children that are viewing this material? Maybe you could just take a little deeper dive on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of instances over the last, years, especially during the last year and a half when this trafficking movement has really taken off, of distraught parents who are saying, my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old stumbled upon or intentionally accessed these sites. Maybe their friends are talking about porn at school and they put porn in the Google search when they're alone in their room, and then they ended up on Pornhub. And these thumbnails play without you even pressing on them. So you could have rows and rows of thumbnails of this pornography that will play autoplay. So a child only has to kind of end up there for a few seconds and then be exposed to the content. But I've had parents who say, my son stumbled upon Pornhub. He thought he watched a real rape. It's possible he did watch a real rape because of what we know about Pornhub. And they said he was traumatized. He hasn't been the same since it happened. He's had to be in therapy for this. His personality has changed. It was a real trauma in the life of this boy. Another distraught father messaged me saying that his son as well had been exposed at a young age. I think he, somewhere between 8 and 11 to Pornhub, and then decided to act out what he was seeing on his siblings. So his younger sister, and then the whole families, all the siblings are now in therapy because of the sexual abuse that was a result of this child being exposed to Pornhub and then copying what he saw. And so those are just, anecdotes that this is common for parents to be reaching out to me with these kinds of stories. But it's not just anecdotes. I mean, we know from studies that porn access for under 18s and adolescents is ubiquitous today. It's easy, and it's a real threat, I think, to the health and safety of our children.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you mentioned the child on child harmful sexual behavior. We've talked about that a lot at Defend Young Minds, and how children are imitative. That's just how they're wired. And so it's not unthinkable that they would view things and copy. We see that in our own kids. I mean,
I have a young daughter, and she's, thinks she's Moana, much of the time, and really believes it, and acts it out, and sings the songs, and just copies, what she sees. And that's just part of childhood, I think.
And it's great when they're seeing healthy behaviors. That's how they grow up and become a healthy adult. But when they're seeing these really terrible, unhealthy, and you mentioned about the boy that was traumatized. In some states, they consider pornography and exposure to pornography for children as non-touch sexual abuse. So I also believe that. So these videos that are made of these children that are really being raped, and because a child cannot give consent, I'm sorry, they just are not old enough. They don't have the wherewithal to give consent to this kind of, because they cannot imagine the fallout, how this is going to play out for the rest of their lives. So how do these child survivors deal with this? I mean, how are they affected? And how can they ever escape the abuse when it's put online?
Well, one thing I do want to mention is that, yes, in many cases, this is a situation where a child has been raped. And then that crime scene is videotaped and uploaded to the world's most popular porn sites like Pornhub. In other cases, these are tweens and teens who are pressured at school. And this is important for your audience to understand, because this could happen to any child in today's digital age, where there is so much pressure to be sexting and to be sending, sexual content between, a teenage boyfriend, a young teen, underage, and a girlfriend, where it's, please, if you love me, send me a video, please, and a girl will feel pressured, or a boy could feel pressured to do the same. And then this content gets out of their control. So that person may upload it online to a site like Pornhub freely and easily, or they could send it to their peers, and then that gets out of hand, and someone of them will upload it to Pornhub. And what happens is sometimes even the real name of that child will be attached to the video, and the school and the hometown of that child would be attached to the video. I came across a situation just months ago, just like that, where there was an underage 15-year-old girl, victim of CSAM, child sexual abuse material. And her name was attached, her hometown, her city. And the problem is then, that content could then get replicated and duplicated. As of December, Pornhub had a download button on every video on the site, where any one of those 130 million visitors per day could find that child's abuse, download it to their device, and upload it again and again and again forever. So once it gets out there, it's almost impossible to get offline, because it gets replicated and duplicated and re-uploaded again and again. And what happens to these survivors is they become severely traumatized, not only by the incident of abuse, but then by the fact that they call it the immortalization of their trauma. So they say, I can never overcome this because I'm in constant terror and fear that this is going to be uploaded again and again. And it is uploaded again and again and again. It's almost like they can never escape it. And, with a case where they're doxxed, where their name's attached, this has implications even in adulthood. Yeah. They're afraid to get it. They can't get a job because their name is attached to these videos. And so I would just say, the impact on victims, whether, in the spectrum of abuse, all the way from blatant rape to sending an underage sexting video that gets out of hand, is very severe and can be life-threatening for these kids who, again, like I said, often become suicidal.
Right. Back when I was a kid, if I made a mistake, it didn't follow me, didn't follow me my whole life. Right. But unfortunately, when kids make a mistake with sending sexual, material, and they may not have made the best choice, it can follow them the rest of their lives. And we need to do something about that, because that's not right.
Yeah. So, and I also want to point out that, it's not even that the child themselves made the wrong choice, which, I don't not agree that it is, but I also want to make sure that the person on the other side, who is the receiving end of that, they made a horrible choice. They made a criminal choice, actually, to upload that content online or to share it, non-consensually share that material. And so I think we need to be educating, if you get this material and you upload it and it's underage, that's a crime. Like, it's very serious. And so they need to understand the implications of what they're doing on both sides.
Yeah, definitely. I think so many kids do not understand that that's criminal. So we need to educate them and let them know that, what are the ramifications of this, because so many kids, they're impulsive and they do things, and but it's really good to show them that, everybody has a digital footprint, and it's so important. And also, sharing underage sexual material, pornography is a felony. It's a felony. So.
And not only and not to just, like you said, it's so important for them to understand the personal implications, the implications it can have on the person that's victimized, that this is not a light thing. This can affect them for the rest of their life. It could cause depression, debilitating, crippling trauma and depression for these victims, and that it's so serious. And so I just think that, there needs to be more education and conversation around the implications of doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what has been the effect of this petition that you started, the Traffickinghub petition? What has been the effect and the fallout and the success of it?
Well, so like I said, so after I wrote that op-ed, copied and pasted into petition, that went viral. So now we have 2.2 million signatures from 192 countries. And we've had, over 300 organizations endorse this effort, but over 600 organizations have joined together at various times to do joint efforts, like, for example, calling on the Canadian government to pursue criminal investigations and prosecutions of Pornhub and MindGeek, as well as the same kind of letter going out here. Hundreds of survivors. There's been protests that have been happening on an ongoing basis outside the MindGeek headquarters and different places around the world, Montreal, LA, in London, especially. And there's been video. There's a short animated video that was released last summer that ended up getting 33 million views in 1 week after it was released. So there's definitely kind of this viral nature to this. I think people are shocked and horrified to find out that Pornhub, who, has spent so much effort presenting themselves to the world as some mainstream kind of cute porn company. They do things like save the bees, and they save the pandas, and they save the oceans, and they, donate masks for coronavirus to hospitals, and they try to get all this press. But right beneath the surface, they're infested with videos of real criminal content that they're profiting from. And so I think that was shocking and horrifying to people. But all of this ended up, clearly getting the attention of the New York Times, and Nicholas Kristof, who's a 2-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, did his own investigation and published The Children of Pornhub. So if you haven't read The Children of Pornhub, go read The Children of Pornhub and read the stories of children who have been caught up in this. And then shortly after that, the pressure was on. There was 4,000 media articles that followed his article. And then Visa, MasterCard, and Discover all cut ties with Pornhub and its parent company, MindGeek. And now they can only take cryptocurrency. Then Grant Thornton and Comcast and Xfinity and Heinz and Unilever and PayPal have all cut ties with the site. And so they were now under investigation in Canada. There was a parliamentary investigation. The secret shareholders of the company have been exposed, who were hiding for years. Yes. Nobody even knew who they were. Imagine that. It would be like Mark Zuckerberg owning Facebook and nobody even knew who he was. Yeah. So anyway, they're being fully exposed. They're being held accountable. There's been 6 lawsuits filed against them on behalf of 97 women. 3 of them were class actions on behalf of trafficked children since the last recent months. So they are under fire and they are in trouble. But the job is not done yet. Yeah. Burn it down, right? Shut it down is the motto of Traffickinghub. We're trying to shut it down. Shut it down, not burn it down. We're trying to shut down the site, because really any other action is an injustice to victims. Because I always say this, a slap on the wrist for Pornhub is a slap in the face to the victims whose lives have been destroyed by this predatory company. So we need to see the real full weight of justice. That means criminal prosecutions, restitution for victims. We need to see laws implemented that would stop this from happening in the future. And I think that's what justice looks like. Yes. Well, I can't even imagine what it would feel like if my daughter or my son were victimized like this. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you've done and the bold voice that you've been to get this going. Was high time for this, and it was the moment, and you really you've changed the world, Laila, and I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of people, but you were the spark, I think, in so many ways. I appreciate that. And I just recognize fully that I am standing on the shoulders of so many who have been pioneering in this area for so long, trying to protect children in front of the screen and behind it, like you and like others in the movement. And so I'm just so grateful for the work that you've steadily been doing for so long. I encourage people to keep supporting that work because it's so important. Yeah, well, we need to do it on all sides. We try to provide tools
and resources for parents to, help install that internal filter with children. And, but there has to be these movements to hold these companies accountable. So what can parents do to help your movement? Where can they find more information about what you're doing and updates? How can they stay in touch?
Yeah, first of all, if you haven't signed this petition, go to traffickinghubpetition.com, sign the petition, share it in your social networks and with your friends and community. And just the petition itself is a really good awareness tool, because you can then, people are like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this. Share those media articles that I mentioned, the video I mentioned as well. And, if you want to contribute to financially to my work, it's at justicedefensefund.org. You can go there and donate there if you want to. But really, calling up your politicians, raising the alarm about this to them, because they work for you. And one of the most important things that we can do is change the laws and to stop this. It's one thing to hold this company accountable. We need to do that because they are the biggest. When we hold the biggest accountable, it has repercussions on everyone else. But we need to set a precedent. But we need to implement laws, not only on the government level, but on the corporate level, and policies to stop the abuse from going forward. And I want to see age and consent verification mandatory regulations that would require age and consent verification for every person in every single video that's uploaded to a porn site. That would go a long way to stop this abuse from, continuing in the future.
Yeah, we need to really watch out and defend our children from people that really just want to make money and they don't care about the lives that they're destroying. So thank you so much, Laila, for being here with me and for being such a hero and really, moving this work forward. So we'll definitely have links to your stuff in our notes, and you can go there. So thank you so much, and all the best in your work going forward.
Thank you. All
Okay.
right. Bye.
Bye.